is coming in the safety market for the Packers, but we won't dive into that speculation quite yet. But as of right now, the reaction continues to David Bakhtiari, one of the all-time greats, right? And he is really one of the last pieces on this Packers team that was a part of that Aaron Rodgers regime. You remember last year when Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of the Packers, made so many moves, detaching the Packers from veterans, guys over the age of 30. Mercedes Lewis, Adrian Amos, obviously Aaron Rodgers. Moving on from all of those guys last offseason, Bakhtiari was the one they kept because they had hoped, despite the fact it was a rebuild or a reload or however you wanted to view going into the 2023 season for the Packers, they needed stability at the left tackle position. And unfortunately, they weren't able to get that. Bakhtiari played in week 1 against the Chicago Bears. He had my all-time favorite Bakhtiari moment when he flipped the bird to the crowd in Chicago during that game, and then he never played again last year. He played in week 1, did not play again. So this move seemed inevitable, and obviously it is the correct move. You're saving $20 million by moving on from Bakhtiari, and seemingly you have your replacement at left tackle in Rasheed Walker. So again, you hit at that position. You hit at a tackle position with a 7th-round pick with Rasheed Walker. But it is hard not to be sad. Despite the chaotic conspiracy theories and the attachment to Aaron Rodgers, Bakhtiari was a damn good Packer. And he was one that was a ton of fun to cheer for. And he was a guy that just got it from day one in Green Bay. As he alluded to in his Twitter post, he was a kid that showed up without the ability to grow facial hair. So to pay homage to him, I shaved today. So I am feeling a little sad because he was such a great player and he raised the bar to so many levels, and he was unable to win a Super Bowl during his time in Green Bay despite all the amazing teams that he was a part of. So now you reminisce, you guess, where is David Bakhtiari off to? What did the Packers do in the free agency market? It's only been open, the tampering period that is, for about 90 minutes, so no movement yet outside of the cuts that they've made. I mentioned a bit earlier, Devondre Campbell also out of Green Bay, saving the team about $10 million. That was another move that was expected, though. The all-pro linebacker from a few years ago moves on as well. So the Packers making moves, freeing up some cap space. It's just now a matter of whether or not they use said cap space. Brian Gutekunst has had only one real offseason in which he's made several moves. That was the offseason of 2019, where he brought in Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith and Adrian Amos at safety. I think a lot of us as Packers fans are anticipating this could be an offseason in which the Packers make some splashes. And you see already today, as the reports begin to come out, Xavier McKinney, formerly of the New York Giants, the Packers are one of the top teams gunning after him. And Diana Rossini of ESPN reports the Giants would love to keep Xavier McKinney, but the Packers are front runners when it comes to landing him. And that's a position of need. So if you connect the dots, which I try to do, that doesn't necessarily mean it's always right, Hunter, but I try to connect the dots. And in my head, here's how it's playing out to me, is the Packers make this move today, which they didn't have to. They make this move today in order to save $20 million. They make the move yesterday of moving on from Devondre Campbell, designating him as a post-June 1 cut. When Jason Wilde joins us a bit later, we'll have him explain how that makes sense, because I don't get it at all. But I know it saves $8 million extra dollars, a total of $10 million by moving on from Campbell. That's $30 million they've freed up in the last 24 hours. There's also these little tidbits, as I just mentioned, and it's on the screen right now. Xavier McKinney, the Packers have come as a front runner and are very interested in acquiring him at the safety position. If you're making these moves in the course of the last 24 hours, it seems to me like that spells out the Packers will be making a splash maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but by Wednesday when we talk again, I would imagine that the Packers have made a splash in free agency. Am I overthinking this, or does this seem like a reasonable explanation to you as well?
No, you're definitely not overthinking it. NFL teams, from what I've always noticed, is they do one of two things this time of year. Either you go the Packers route with letting guys go and making them those June 1st cuts and all of that to make a move and make room for someone else, Or you do like what my favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys, have done, and they restructure deals to then save money just to get yourself in a spot where you're not over the cap. The Packers are making these moves specifically to sign somebody. And if they don't, then we have to start having conversations about what the heck is Goody doing, because why are you getting rid of guys who can help you win if you're not going to try and bring someone else in?
Yeah, you're right about that. And, you know, the thing with Goody is I've doubted him before, and I've been proven wrong. If you flash back to this time last year, boy, was I freaking out. Because the trade hadn't happened yet with Aaron Rodgers, but we knew it was coming. We knew Aaron Rodgers at this point last year, right around this point last year, that he would be traded to the New York Jets. It just took about a month to get the deal done. But Rodgers went on McAfee last year, looked into his iPhone, which he can only FaceTime on, can't do phone calls on.
That still bothers me so much, by the way.
Rightfully so. And said, hey, it's my intention to play for the New York Jets. So we knew the Jordan Love era would begin. And when free agency rolled around, he wasn't active. Goody wasn't. And let's remember, the wide receiver room at that point, they moved on from Al Lazard, looked like this. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. That was like it, right? And then they go get Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks in the draft. Bo Melton is acquired. And those guys end up being really good. Tight end, empty room. The guy they resigned today, Smitty, as Mark Tauscher likes to call him, Tyler Davis, the tight end who tore his ACL last year, they re-signed him today. He was like their top tight end on the roster at this point last year. And it ended up being a playoff team that ended up not just beating, but kicking the ass of your favorite team, Hunter, the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round. So I doubted Goody and his lack of activeness, or activity rather, in the free agency market last year. I can't doubt Goody. So if he's making these moves, which both of these I think were anticipated, the Devondre Campbell cut yesterday and the one that it hasn't been officially confirmed by the Packers yet, but Bakhtiari's tweet spells it out, that they'll be moving on from David Bakhtiari. Both of these moves, to me, spell out like, hey, Goody wants to make a splash. He understands, maybe even quicker than he anticipated, that the championship window is open for the Green Bay Packers and that they can go out and make a splash, whether that's at safety or at linebacker, or get some offensive line depth. Maybe a running back signing. I'm not ruling that out. A cheap one behind Aaron Jones, assuming and maybe they'll restructure him. I know there's been some headlines around Aaron Jones over the course of the last 24 hours, actually, which include your Dallas Cowboys. I'm just intrigued to see what the next couple hours hold, because I wouldn't be shocked if by the time we sign off in an hour, the Packers restructure somebody else, or make a signing, because that's to me what this says, is that they're going to go out and make a signing. And obviously with the interest in Xavier McKinney, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I just can't imagine an NFL team getting rid of two guys just so they can make sure that they're under the cap. Like they were like, what was it, about 40 million over, I believe, were the reports, or they have the 40 million a dead cap, but they were pretty well over the cap number. So like you needed to do something, but I would have assumed that would have meant if they just cared about, oh, we just need to make sure that we're not going to, be over the cap, that, okay, we'll just move money to signing bonuses and then you're just going to get this money up front and then that pulls it off of the cap. You're getting rid of guys to make space for someone else.
Yeah.
It absolutely is what it is. It's going to be shocking to me if they don't get someone. I do hope for your sake and your sanity that it is Xavier McKinney.
Or a safety, right? And David points out on YouTube, on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube, excited to be with ESPN Milwaukee's audience today as well, say they also have visits lined up with another free agent safety stroke, Rayshon Jenkins of the Jaguars, and he's absolutely correct. I saw that report come through as well. I'm just a little bit more excited about the Xavier McKinney interest, just because I think he is a better safety. And obviously Justin Simmons, who was cut by Denver, I think late last week, his name has popped up a lot too. So fans certainly anticipate the Packers will go get a safety. That does not necessarily mean, though, that Brian Gutekunst will go out and get a safety. But you're right. For my sanity, for everybody that's a Packers fan like me, their sanity, I hope to God that Goody is going out and getting a safety. Though it is not a guarantee ever with the Green Bay Packers. What they do in free agency, what we anticipate, like it never works out that way. And something that has bothered me, but again, he's proven me wrong every time with Goody and his activity or lack thereof in free agency, is it seems like the signings we want them to make, in this case, Xavier McKinney or Rayshon Jenkins or Justin Simmons, they're always in the mix. They're just never the team that lands them, right? You get the tweet, okay, Rayshon Jenkins, let's just use him as the example. He re-signs with Jacksonville. Green Bay was very heavily involved in conversations, though, right? Like, that's the tweet you see from Adam Schefter all the time. And now, where I fully feel, as a Green Bay Packers fan, like the championship window is open. Jordan Love proved to me last year he's the guy. This offense is young, and we assume will only get better from this point forward, especially at the skill positions, right? Wide receiver and tight end. Defense, you make the change at defensive coordinator, but you still have a ton of investment defensively in terms of first-round picks. You need to kind of take a big swing if you're Brian Gutekunst. Don't allow mediocrity. Don't even think it's a possibility. Set Jeff Hafley, the new defensive coordinator, up for success. He spent extensive time in his opening press conference talking about the safety position and what is needed at said position and what type of guy he's looking for. I don't think that was an accident by Jeff Hafley, right? He wants Goody to go make a splash because, look, I like Anthony Johnson Jr., the 7th-round pick out of Iowa State. I like Benny Sapp as a special teams guy. If one of those two are your starting safeties come week 1 of the 2024 season, Green Bay, we've got a problem, right? So whether it's draft investment, whether it's free agency investment, I don't really care. Just go out and make a move. And I think that's what Packers fans at least anticipate as it stands right now, as the Packers allegedly moving on from David Bakhtiari, according to his Twitter. Again, posting it less than an hour ago, David Bakhtiari was a really long message to Green Bay, just saying thank you to the staff and his family and everybody else. I do want to dive in, though, Hunter, quickly, on the hashtag he used. I don't think he's used it in the past. Hashtag dinner for two. Love69, hashtag dinner for two. It's the last thing in his tweet. After a long thank you. I've never seen him use hashtag dinner for two before. Is that a reference to something?
Not that I specifically know of. Now I'm going to see if I can try and somehow talk to you and look this up. My thought is that his pal, Aaron Rodgers, is who the second person in that dinner for two is, and he's going to New York. He'll take a team-friendly deal, whatever discount he needs to, I think, to go and play for the Jets because they need any lineman that is able to play for them.
So you're not a Packers fan, but I do want to throw this out to everybody watching along with us. ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee, YouTube. We're live on the ESPN Madison TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook as well. And if you're listening after the fact to the Mr. Irrelevant podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand, wherever you get your podcast, shoot me a tweet at Alex_Strofe. Would it upset you if Bakhtiari wound up in New York with Aaron Rodgers? Would you be happy if Bakhtiari and Aaron Rodgers are reunited for the 2024 season? How would you feel if David Bakhtiari goes to the Jets? Because I think we all have the feeling, as Hunter points out off the hashtag dinner for two, that Bakhtiari and Rodgers will be reunited. We know Bakhtiari was a little bit upset last year when they moved on. He was the one person in 1265 Lombardi Avenue that would call last year's season a rebuild going into the season. And the way he put it, anytime you move on from a Hall of Fame quarterback, it's a rebuild. So in my head, I feel like it's a no-brainer that Bakhtiari would end up in New York with Aaron Rodgers and play for the Jets, who, by the way, had some offensive line troubles last year. Now, Bakhtiari is clearly a big risk. It's a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy. And not by any fault of his own, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout the course of the last few seasons. So if the Jets want to take a risk on him, sure. But is Joe Douglas the general manager or is Aaron Rodgers? And last year it certainly looked like it was Aaron Rodgers. So if he wants Bakhtiari, he's probably going to get him. So I'm curious from you, Packers fan, how would you feel if Bakhtiari wound up with the Jets? Indifferent? Upset? Happy for him? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. So I would love to hear from you on the YouTube live chat, TikTok chat, or wherever you're watching along with us. Go ahead, Hunter.
So I looked up, or I just clicked on the hashtag dinner for two. This is not the first time David Bakhtiari has used this. January 1st, 2023, he had a tweet with the quote, Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. And then it's a gif of him on his back in the end zone. And he used hashtag GoPackGo, hashtag dinner for two.
Yeah, and I just got another one from April 1st of last year. Somebody tweeted him a picture of their speedometer, or odometer rather, and it was at 69,000 miles, 696.9. So it was 696969. And he just tweeted, go buy a lotto ticket right now, hashtag dinner for two.
Okay.
So it's something he's used in the past, but I don't know the meaning of it.
I think I figured it out, and it's not appropriate. So,
Got it.
yep, we'll just leave it there.
Wow.
I'm smart.
We just stumbled into that. Okay.
I'm also a child. But like,
Are we really that dumb?
clearly.
It's just a sex joke by David Bakhtiari?
yeah,
He's making a sex
naughty.
joke?
Yeah,
Huh.
he's got a potty
I
mouth.
got to be honest with you. That's not what I expected.
I mean,
I thought he legitimately meant dinner. It's a sex joke.
yeah.
Unbelievable. We are such a professional program. Jason Wilde just tweeted, story is filed to the Wisconsin State Journal, and he's joining us shortly. Looking forward to the conversation with him around David Bakhtiari and Devondre Campbell, who ultimately both will be cut by the Packers. Neither of these shocking moves, both expected moves. The timing's interesting, the day that free agency or the legal tampering period technically opens. On the day that it's announced the Packers will be meeting with a pair of free agent safeties. The timing is interesting to me. It certainly is interesting to me. Before we get to Jason Wilde momentarily, do want to give you the update on our friends from Lake Louie and the Badger Club burger bracket. We are down to 4 Madison area restaurants that are making it to the Flavor 4. The Enticing 8 happened over the weekend. The 8 bars and restaurants that made it to that round were all voted on, and we are down to 4. The big reveal. Tipsy Cow Sun Prairie will take on Brass Ring. I was there on Saturday, Brass Ring, right up the street from us here at the Everlight Solar Studios. And Beer Rock will take on Ope House Pub on the other side of the bracket. Those polls will be posted immediately following the show today, leading to the final 2, which will be posted Wednesday. And next Monday, a week from today, we're partying at the local joint that wins. So of those 4 locations, we'll be at one of them next week to celebrate and talk everything that happens over the course of the weekend. Obviously, a big weekend for college hoops, but as it stands right now, also going to be a really big week when it comes to NFL free agency. So just to recap, David Bakhtiari cut, that saves $20 million for the Packers, or allegedly, right? The Packers have not announced it yet, but David Bakhtiari saying farewell. It will save them just over a touch over $20 million. On the Devondre Campbell side, he was designated as a post-June 1 cut, meaning that he's going to save like an extra $8 million for the Packers, a total of 10. So it's about $30 million between those 2 moves in what the Packers save. I can't believe that was a sex joke. Like I'm honestly mind blown, and I really am having a hard time focusing as we figure that out together.
Yeah, I've
said many times on this program, I'm one of the biggest idiots in the world. I think I just proved it to all of you there as we stumbled into that.
And it's just the fact that I was just so oblivious to it. Like, I thought he's like making a comment on like, hey, I'm going to go join somebody.
Right.
Like,
No, that's what I thought too. I thought he was being vague, which, like, by the way, Keyshawn Nixon being very vague over the weekend as well. He's a free agent for the Packers and is probably priority number 1 when it comes to outstanding free agents. Tyler Davis was brought back earlier today. He had a bunch of really vague tweets over the weekend. Why me? ... And then a couple hours later, I worked for it ... And then one that said, I vision this ... And then yesterday, or rather Friday, tweets, I reached all my goals, then mapped out some MO ... So Keyshawn Nixon, vague tweets. I thought hashtag dinner for 2 is a vague tweet. Turns out it was just a sex joke by now the former Packers left tackle. Joining us now, I'm sure that didn't go over his head, the 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year. You hear him each and every weekday morning from 9 to noon on ESPN Wisconsin with the Packers Hall of Famer, the former right tackle, Mark Tauscher. He did not wear jersey number 69. He wore 65. The great Jason Wilde joins us now on Mr. Irrelevant to break down everything going on in Packers free agency. Jason, hashtag dinner for 2 made me as red as the ESPN sign behind me. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, 68 for Tausch at Wisconsin, though.
It's true.
So almost dinner for 2. Yeah, I'm a little surprised you didn't get that.
I'm not the smartest dude by any means.
No, but that's there's a connotation to that sexy number, as he likes to call it. But yes, this was a matter of when, not if, and it turned out to be with about 5 minutes left in Wilde and Tausch that this came to fruition from David.
Yeah, I felt bad for you mid commercial break as that news came along, and you didn't have a lot of time to react to it. So I figured I'd be selfless, like the teammate I am, and I'd give you the opportunity to react to the news we expected, which is David Bakhtiari will no longer be a member of the Green Bay Packers, according to his social media, saving the team $20 million. Are you surprised by the timing on this at all?
No, I was surprised it didn't happen already. Are you clean shaven today?
I am, yeah. Yeah,
That's a rarity.
it is. You're right.
Much like David, who was a fresh-faced kid when he got to town in 2013 and immediately was thrust into the left tackle job when our friend Brian Bulaga suffered a torn ACL on family night. No, this was always going to be the ending. He has plenty left in the tank if he has that knee fixed. So I know there were some people that misinterpreted this as a retirement post. This is not a retirement post. He plans on playing again. That's why he underwent the surgery he did in November to try and get this knee finally right. So we all knew this was coming. He had a $39.99 million cap number for the 2024 season. The Packers were not going to go through what they went through last year, where they converted money into guaranteed signing bonus and then got one game out of him before his season was over. I traded a couple of messages with David as the show was ending, and then after the show ended. I think, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he was really excited about the way this team came together without him. I think he was a skeptic when his best friend was traded to the Jets. I don't think he was particularly happy. But I think he saw from this young group some pretty impressive stuff. And I think there's probably part of him that, wishes that he could have been a greater part of that, but his knee just wouldn't allow it after that game in Chicago. So he underwent the surgery. His hope now is to return to playing somewhere. And as he wrote in his Frank Sinatra themed post, whatever happens next, I look forward to it. And we'll have to wait and see. But he will not be a Packer. His 11-year run in Green Bay with 5 Pro Bowls or All-Pro selections.
All-Pros, yeah.
Oddly enough, fewer Pro Bowl selections than All-Pro selections.
So weird.
Is over.
It is indeed. And again, I think this is something we anticipated, but I don't know that we could have anticipated what Bakhtiari turned into in Green Bay. You just mentioned it. 4th-round pick to a 5-time All-Pro, and was unfortunately just never able to get healthy. The last moment we have of Bakhtiari is really him flipping the bird to Chicago Bears fans week 1 of this past season. So, and I don't know that you know the answer to this. Neither of us are doctors, believe it or not, Jason, but this is something he's struggled with for several years now. Is he going to be, to use his word, a sexy free agency option for another team out there, despite all of the injury bugs he's had the last couple of years?
If his knee is fixed, yes, and that obviously is the hope, right? He underwent something called cartilage regeneration surgery. I believe he had it in Chicago in November. The hope is that this fixes everything that's gone awry inside that knee since that fateful practice on December 31st, 2020. I did a charity event up here in Green Bay via Zoom with 2 of his former offensive line mates, Corey Linsley and Brian Bulaga. And they were both, or Brian wasn't there, Brian was gone, but Corey was there the day that happened in practice. And no one at the time, including David, realized what a catastrophic event had just occurred. He had no idea that it was going to turn out to be that severe. He didn't even think he tore his ACL at the time. And then obviously you look at what had happened before the injury when he had started, I believe, 118 of a possible 124 games. And then what happened subsequently after the injury, he started 13 out of 57 possible games. Look, it interrupted a player who was on a Pro Football Hall of Fame trajectory at the time of the injury. And I think he still would like the opportunity to write the final few chapters. And I've drawn this comparison a lot of times. I know you've heard me say this. I think he has a chance if the knee is sound, and that is obviously a colossal, gargantuan if after what he's been through. But if it is sound, I think he has a chance to do, if he wants to play 3 or 4 more years, to 36, 37. He's going to be 33 in September. I think he has a chance to do what Andrew Whitworth did, having a stellar career for the Cincinnati Bengals and then having a second chapter with the Rams and winning a Super Bowl. And now Andrew Whitworth is going to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And I do think David still has that chance. I do think David wants to be able to do that. I think he would love nothing more than to go to Canton and nothing more than to win a Super Bowl. As he mentioned in his post, he wanted to raise a Lombardi trophy on Lombardi Avenue. That never happened, largely because of that 2014 team losing the way it did in Seattle, and because of him not being on the field for that NFC Championship game at Lambeau in January of 2021 against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those were the 2 chances during his tenure that the Packers had their best shot at getting to a Super Bowl. They had the meltdown in Seattle, and he wasn't able to play against the Bucs. They mishandled their offensive line in that game without David, and the results were that they never got to a Super Bowl during his tenure.
I want to get back to David Bakhtiari momentarily, Jason, but Ian Rappaport of NFL Network just reporting as we're talking here, Darnell Savage, formerly now of the Packers, just signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars on a 3-year deal. So Savage will not be returning to Green Bay, which continues the question marks around the safety position. I don't think we anticipated Savage back in Green Bay, Jason, but it is finalized now. He's headed to Jacksonville.
Yeah, obviously they can only agree to terms. They can't actually sign contracts until Wednesday, but that is not a surprise to me either. I did not expect him back. I thought maybe if he found a less than stellar market, but I think he needed a fresh start. I'm eager to see, I think it's interesting. Ian Rappaport, I think, was the first to post that one. Always curious to see what the numbers turn out to be. And in his tweet, there is no numbers other than the 3 years, right? So that makes me curious exactly how much he got. He's got a lot to prove. I liked Darnell Savage as a player and a guy. I enjoyed covering him. We had a good relationship. We went shopping at TJ Maxx once.
Really?
Together. Well, not together. He was shopping with his girlfriend and I was shopping, but
Maxinistas.
I like good discounts. It's one of my favorite stores.
Hey,
I get a lot of candles.
I'm wearing TJ Maxx right now, Jason. Love it.
It's like the Oscars. I'm wearing Sierra. I'm wearing Marshalls. But I would say this. I thought he was on a very good, I like the word trajectory a lot.
You do.
I thought he was on a good trajectory his first 2 years in Mike Pettine's scheme. And, he never once publicly badmouthed Joe Barry, but I think he always felt like he was miscast by Joe Barry. And the only reason I thought maybe there was a chance he would be back in Green Bay if he found a soft market was that he would have a new defensive coordinator who might use him differently. But obviously that turned out to not be the case, and he is moving on.
There you go. Darnell Savage to the Jaguars. Let's go back to Bakhtiari because I think everybody and their grandmama is thinking David Bakhtiari is probably headed after the Frank Sinatra-ridden post to reunite with his boy Aaron Rodgers in New York. Do you think that is team number one on David Bakhtiari's wish list?
Well, I mean, in fairness to David, he did not choose, I want to be a part of it.
New York, New York. Very good. That was good.
He went my way. And so the end is near, as it turns out, with him in Green Bay. Look, that makes sense. Again, and I just wrote this in my story that I filed to the State Journal. Not to be whatever, but what exactly do you pay David Bakhtiari right now?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
What is his market? What is realistic for him to expect? Man, this Rots Hots hat, I hadn't looked at this closely. This really, I got the flow going on in the back. This hat really works for me.
Yeah, it
I
does.
want
It
to
looks
thank
good.
Ashton Rotman publicly. I really love this hat. It's an original. Sorry, I'm not used to seeing myself. I have it set up for when I'm talking to Tausch that I don't see myself as clearly. So this is throwing me off a bit.
You look good,
Look,
buddy. Keep rolling.
Thanks. I was fishing for a compliment like Jesse often does on our show. I don't know what his market will look like from a financial standpoint. I would think many teams would be interested in a guy of his level of accomplishment if he's healthy. But that's a colossal if. And how do you structure a contract for him, not knowing where he's at with his knee? Now,
Absolutely.
he was interested because at the scouting combine, Goody basically admitted they don't know how far away he is from being able to play. So that's another component here for whoever is next on his dance card in terms of where he's going to play. I mean, it's not quite the same as like having torn your ACL in the playoffs, or if Dre Greenlaw was a free agent after he ruptured his Achilles running off the sideline in the Super Bowl. The timeline's a little different, but I'm also curious, what are the Atlanta Falcons, who reportedly are hosting or are negotiating with Kirk Cousins?
Mm-hmm.
How much are you paying him guaranteed coming off of a ruptured Achilles at his age? So there's this will be really interesting to see how it unfolds. Look, the Jets offensive line was trash. It was not their fault. I would say that Aaron Rodgers ruptured his Achilles.
Jason, I got to cut you off, buddy. I got to cut you off. We got major breaking news in Green Bay. According to Ian Rappaport, the Packers expected to sign running back Josh Jacobs. The Packers are going to bring in the former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, according to Ian Rappaport on Twitter. To that, I say, where the hell did this come from?
Well, they basically got A.J. Dillon, except a good one.
Yeah.
Right? And I say that because they have said before that they like the idea. I think, in fact, Goody even said it at the Combine a couple weeks ago when talking about A.J. Dillon. He really likes the idea of, for lack of a better term, thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
And two different types of running backs. Josh Jacobs gives him that, but a different one than A.J. Dillon. So that I would say this. I did not think that would happen, but I am not as floored as you appear to be.
Really? Look,
Well,
I anticipated them addressing running back in the draft. I didn't think they'd go the free agent route, especially one of the biggest names on the market like Josh Jacobs is.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think is interesting from this morning, right? Because Tony Pollard went from the Cowboys to the Titans to replace Derrick Henry. 3 years, $24 million, I believe. DeAndre Swift is going from Philadelphia to Chicago. 3 years, $24 million. That's an average of $8 million a year, if my math is correct. That's not very much. If you can get Josh Jacobs for $8 million annually, if that's what this ends up being, that's not too bad. I mean, we're talking about a bunch of guys who played on this franchise tag last year, which was what, 10, 11 million for the running back position?
True that, yeah.
So, and I will say this, if I know I said this on one of our shows, and I don't say this so Tausch could say, thank you for your service. I do appear on a lot of our programs across ESPN Wisconsin. I do think at some point I floated the idea of them signing Derrick Henry if the Titans didn't bring him back, because LaFleur had coached him in Tennessee. He's a big fan of his. So instead of getting A.J. Dillon, you get the guy who A.J. Dillon patterns his game after. But Josh Jacobs, again, if they are getting him at an inexpensive rate, which it appears the two positions that the Packers are most interested in, running back and safety, are both positions that have depressed markets where you don't have to pay an arm and a leg to get them. So Josh Jacobs and I am curious about this. What does this mean for Aaron Jones, given how definitive Goody was about wanting him back?
Yeah.
Because very rarely does a general manager use words like absolutely. But that was what he said after the season was over when asked about bringing Aaron Jones back. Does this augment them having Aaron Jones? Or does this mean that maybe he spoke prematurely and they will still do what you think they were going to do, but it will be Josh Jacobs in a draft pick instead of Aaron Jones in a draft pick? Because one thing we know Goody is not, and that is sentimental. Right? He kicked Jordy Nelson to the curb in favor of Jimmy Graham, which was a colossal mistake, by the way. Maybe as much as he loves Aaron Jones, if Drew Rosenhaus balked at the numbers they were bringing to them during the scouting combine, maybe this changes. Hey, you can still come back, but it's going to be at our number. This is a really, really interesting development, and we'll see what the tentacles of this story are as it moves forward.
Josh Jacobs has played 73 games in his career. He just wrapped up his 5th year, all with the Raiders. First year in Oakland, the last 4 in Las Vegas. He has had over 1,000 all-purpose yards every year of his career. He was in first-team All-Pro selection, not this past year, but the season prior, over 2,000 all-purpose yards that year with the Raiders in 2022. This is a colossal signing. I mean, this is not a backup option. This is debatably the best free agent running back option, not named Saquon Barkley, in this year's market. This is fascinating to me. I did not see this one coming, but I think you're right, Jason. Could this mean Aaron Jones is out? Because we saw the piece, I believe it was either late last night, early this morning, about the potential of Jones with the Dallas Cowboys. Could be a restructure. He could ultimately become a free agent. This, to me, makes it seem like maybe the Packers are going to move on from Aaron Jones, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. This is just fascinating to me. I'm thrilled with this signing. Josh Jacobs, only 26 years old. He is a terrific running back. I just, wow, out of left field for me. You're less shocked than me, but I'm blown away. But I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, one of the cool things about doing this is when stuff happens in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get to do this in a lot of different jobs. So for this, my instinct would be that this means, hey, we gave you a chance at our number, and you and Drew Rosenhaus balked at it. We love you. We love you, man. But we're going to choose a guy who is 5 years younger than you, with a longer-term option as opposed to bringing you back. Again, the idea that Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones could coexist in the backfield is not far-fetched, right? They want a 1-2 combination. Aaron Jones is a different type of running back. He is certainly someone that they want to make sure they don't overutilize, which has been a criticism of both of the head coaches that have had Aaron Jones in Green Bay, Mike McCarthy first, and then with Matt LaFleur. But my gut tells me that it's less likely that Aaron Jones will be back. Talk about being Mr. Captain Obvious. I would think that this makes it less likely that Aaron Jones will be back. Not ruling it out completely, but holy moly.
Holy moly is right. That is wild. It's funny because right before I saw that come across, Jason, I was going to ask you, Bakhtiari, you save over $20 million by making that move. Campbell, by designating it as a post-June 1 cut, you save about $10 million. If I'm connecting the dots, that seems to me like the Packers are likely going to go take a big swing. So off that, I will ask you, is this the big swing, or do you anticipate Brian Gutekunst being active also on the defensive side of the ball in the next couple of days?
Yeah, they got to do something at safety, right? And obviously, just during the time we've been talking here, this started as a Bakhtiari conversation. Darnell Savage has agreed to terms with the Jaguars. Now we've got a deal in place between the Packers and Josh Jacobs. They need to do something at safety. They can't start Benny Sapp III and Anthony Johnson Jr. this season. Now, I will say this. Goody said at the scouting combine that he doesn't necessarily think it has to be a veteran that they play at that position. But there are multiple reports that they are in on Xavier McKinney, the free agent safety from the Giants. I believe Diana Rossini was the one who reported that the Giants are still trying to re-sign him, and the Eagles are also interested. The Eagles cut Keith Byard, who they acquired at the trade deadline from Tennessee during the season last year, an accomplished safety. They moved on from him, so they obviously are going in a different direction. I don't know Xavier McKinney. Does he want to stay in the NFC East? Does he want to stay in a big city? Philly versus Green Bay, New York versus Green Bay. The Packers do have a connection to him. Derek Ansley, their new defensive passing game coordinator, recruited Xavier McKinney to Alabama. So there's a bunch of moving pieces to that. But look, I will say this. There is the safety market is flooded.
It is.
And there are lots of really good players at that position, some older than others. I'm a Justin Simmons guy. The guy's a 4-time All-Pro. He's still 30 years old. He's not completely over the hill and did not play like he was last season. He seems to me to be a guy that you could get for a bargain price because of his age, despite his accomplishments. And I know Goody loves a good bargain. But again, they have to do something at safety. I don't think they can address it solely in the draft. So I don't think that Josh Jacobs will be the only big swing they take. He may be their only solid contact that they make at those big swings.
Yeah.
But I think they've got some more swings at the plate.
I love that. Jason, I imagine you have phone calls to make and probably another story to file given the news we just found out. So I'll let you go on that. Really appreciate the insight. And I imagine this probably won't be the only time we talk this week, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Happy to do it, buddy. All right. I'm off to write about Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, let me know if you learn anything, please, in your research, because I need a couple nuggets while I'm on here for another 15. Jason Wilde, you hear me each and every weekday.
The first text I have to make is to the people that I know in the organization to ask what this means for Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the biggest question here.
No doubt about it.
Else.
No doubt about it.
I will let you know if I find anything out.
He's the best. Jason Wilde, weekdays 9 to noon with Packers Hall of Famer Mark Tauscher on ESPN Wisconsin. And he mentioned it there. I'm sure you're going to hear him all over ESPN Wisconsin today because that is bananas. Again, the news coming across just about 10 minutes ago. The Packers have signed free agent running back, or expected to sign. I guess they legally can't till Wednesday due to the legal tampering period opening today. But the Packers expected to sign former All-Pro running back Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders. Holy smokes. I mean, we're spending the entire show today talking about safety and linebacker and defensive line, and maybe they'll get some offensive line depth. The Packers just signed the best running back on the free agent market, not named Saquon Barkley. That is huge. Now, Jason's right. I think that probably means Aaron Jones' career in Green Bay is over as well. I find it hard to believe that you have a backfield of Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones, given that and again, we understand the running back market is depleted when it comes to dollar signs, right? Teams are viewing running backs as less of a commodity than they used to. Big contracts for running backs really don't happen unless you're Christian McCaffrey. So we don't have numbers yet on Josh Jacobs and what he's going to sign with the Packers. But Aaron Jones, I believe, owed $12 million this upcoming season. And I imagine Josh Jacobs is going to be somewhere between 8 to 12. So if you're paying your top two running backs a combined almost $20 million, I would be surprised if both of those guys are on the roster, at least for what they're owed in terms of Aaron Jones. So we'll keep you posted on that as news continues to come out. But I am completely taken aback. I did not anticipate the Packers to take a big swing, especially at that position, right? Jason mentioned it as well. Brian Gutekunst was absolutely adamant in his season-ending press conference that he wanted Aaron Jones back next year after Jones finished the best 5-game stretch of his career with the Packers, which were the last 3 regular season games and then the 2 playoff games in Dallas and San Francisco. He had over 100 yards all-purpose in all 5 of those games. He was terrific. And you saw how different that offense was with a healthy Aaron Jones on the field than the games he missed during the course of the 2023 season. Josh Jacobs is durable as heck, and he is a younger, more gritty, like tough version. He's more of an A.J. Dillon type, just a bruiser. He's one of the best running backs in the league. That is bananas to me as the Packers expected to sign running back Josh Jacobs.
Now, I know that we want to talk about the Packers, but you know where Aaron Jones is from.
El Paso. Well, he went to school in El Paso. He's from Texas.
He's from Texas.
And the Cowboys just lost their guy to the Tennessee Titans. Tony Pollard ends up in Tennessee. I wouldn't be shocked.
I think the Cowboys are going to be sending something up to Green Bay, and he ends up in Dallas now. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I think so.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm incredibly excited to see how this plays out over the course of the next couple of hours because I don't think they're done, right? I think today is about figuring out what the heck the game plan is, and you finally get a look inside where their minds are. I have a really hard time believing Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs can coexist on the same offense. They're both terrific, and my goodness, would I be through the roof if both of those guys were under contract in 2024 for the Packers. You feel absolutely confident about both those guys on the field, maybe even at the same time, right? They're different backs, but I don't think it's super likely that Jones is back, which I don't want to lose Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones, and especially what we saw him do at the end of the 2023 campaign. I mean, he completely changes this Packers offense for a young quarterback in Jordan Love. But this is, without a doubt, the most stunning move of the day as the Packers are set to sign running back Josh Jacobs. Has never had a season under 1,000 all-purpose yards. He has never had a season in which he's played less than 13 games. Played 13 this past year, played all 17 in 2022, played 15 in 21, played 15 in 20, and played 13 in his rookie year back in 2019. Was over 1,000 yards all-purpose every season. This past year, his lowest rushing total, 805 yards in the 13 games. Still a really good season for him, but only 6 touchdowns to go along with that. So he's coming off what you could call statistically his worst year of his career. But if he's healthy, that dude's a baller. I mean, he's a top 5 running back in the NFL. Jones is probably borderline top 5. I'd probably say closer to like 7, 8 in the league. Josh Jacobs, undeniably, is an upgrade from Aaron Jones. He's younger. He's more consistent. He's more durable. It's an upgrade at the running back position. I'm just curious to see how they handle the Aaron Jones situation now. This is fascinating to me. I did not see this one coming at all. So just to recap what's happened in the last 24 hours for the Green Bay Packers, shall we? In case you're just joining us, ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Yesterday, the Packers cut Devondre Campbell, who was an all-pro linebacker 2 years ago. That saves them $10 million. Less than 2 hours ago, David Bakhtiari, the 5-time all-pro left tackle, announces he will be released by the Packers, saving them over $20 million for the upcoming season. After an injury-riddled last couple of seasons, David Bakhtiari will not be a Packer. And then just about a half an hour ago, less than that, it comes out that the Packers are expected to sign running back Josh Jacobs. No details on how many years or the dollar sign attached to that, but Josh Jacobs expected to come to Green Bay, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely. I am completely taken aback by that. So that is your quick recap on everything that's gone on with the Packers. Also, I missed Darnell Savage, the former Packers safety first-round pick, is moving on. He signs a 3-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got all that? You got all that. I think I've got all of it. I know the minute we sign off, something else is going to break because that's the type of day like today is on March 11th, the first day of the legal tampering period, which, by the way, has been open for less than 2.5 hours. And that's all what's happened for Green Bay. They're making moves. They understand the championship window is open, and Goody is not neglecting the offense like he has in past years in free agency. Think of the biggest free agent signing Goody's made in the past couple of years offensively. I don't know. Randall Cobb was a trade. Mercedes Lewis when he was 48 years old. Like, I can't think of a big free agent signing on the offensive side. I mean, you can make the case for some offensive linemen, but Josh Jacobs is the biggest offensive free agency signing I remember in quite some time for the Green Bay Packers. This is nothing short of amazing. I know I'm a Packers fan. I know my bias shines through. I get that. But, like, we cannot undervalue what Josh Jacobs brings to the table and brings to an offense. This is awesome for Jordan Love and company.
I think this also makes it very clear what Matt LaFleur wants out of his offense and the running back position.
Which
He wants that power. He wants that between the tackles guy. As great as Aaron Jones is, and as much as he can do for an offense, I don't think that's what Matt LaFleur wants. So he views this as, I can get the guy I want, who is a much, much better version of A.J. Dillon, which was what I think they were trying to do there with that pick, and then say, okay, yeah, we have Aaron Jones. He's fun. It's great. We can use him because, like, I know how to scheme an offense, but I have a chance to go and get the type of guy that I want now. And this offense might be even more explosive just because of it. And the production may stay the same from that position if they do let Aaron Jones go. But it's just very clear to me, at least, that they want a bruiser, they want a between the tackles guy, and now they have one, and I hate that they have one.
They got one. And as a Cowboys fan, Aaron Jones played his best football against the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Every single
he had
time.
Some of his best games of his career, including the playoff game this past year with 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys. And now the Packers signed one of the best running backs in the NFL in Josh Jacobs. Absolutely phenomenal. Let's save the daylight savings conversation. We'll save the Badgers talk. We'll get the 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament. They'll play Thursday against the winner of Maryland and Rutgers. I know our buddy Ben Brust from Kyle Brust and Nortman will join us later in the week to talk all things Badgers, who are 3-8 in their last 11 games, but still the 5 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So I do want to get into that a bit later. I had a what Strofe learned. What I learned is the Packers are taking swings, baby. Brian Gutekunst is not sitting around this free agency go-around. We're less than 2.5 hours in, and the Packers are expected to sign Josh Jacobs, release David Bakhtiari, release Devondre Campbell, Darnell Savage going elsewhere. Goody is making moves. That's what I learned. Josh Jacobs, the newest Green Bay Packer. Wow. Unbelievable. I'm out of words. I mean, this is great. I'm totally curious to see what happens now with Aaron Jones, and I don't know how quick we'll get word on that. But he is under contract, right? So that's something to keep in mind. It's not like he's a free agent. He's under contract, so they're either going to renegotiate his deal, set him up with a new deal, or they'll move on from him and have Josh Jacobs be the lead back in Green Bay.
Is there any chance that he's a part of a draft day they want to go and move up?
Maybe.
Like, I could see that happening.
But at $12 million, I don't know how many teams are ready to go get that, right?
But
because you see a guy like Tony Pollard get $8 million a year. Jones is debated. I mean, I'd say he's better than Pollard as a back. Maybe not significantly, but he is. So maybe somebody would. But I don't know. With Saquon still on the market, you saw DeAndre Swift, as you mentioned earlier, go to the Bears. Derrick Henry's still on the market. Austin Eckler is a free agent. There's some really good backs on the open market right now, testing free agency for the first time. So I don't know if anybody would be clamoring to trade for a 30-year-old Aaron Jones who's worth $12 million this year. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but
I
that'd
also
be my guess.
Think of it as, maybe the Packers want to try and do that with Aaron Jones as a way of saving some of these other draft picks. I know they have a lot in the couple top 100 picks and everything, but if they can hang on to both of those second-round picks and instead they give up Aaron Jones, I think they would rather do that than, say, have to give up, both second-round picks and then pick swap the first in order to move up a few spots, if that's maybe what they do. So I think that could be what they end up doing with Aaron Jones.
How about some quarterback news before we get out of here? We saw yesterday Russell Wilson announced he will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another free agent quarterback just coming across from Adam Schefter and his agent Mike McCartney. Kirk Cousins out of the NFC North. He's headed to the NFC South. The Atlanta Falcons have their new quarterback. It's Kirk Cousins who's headed to Atlanta. So 2 of those quarterback dominoes have fallen now. Wilson to the Steelers, staying in the AFC. Cousins going to the Falcons, also staying in the NFC. So there's your first 2 quarterback dominoes that have fallen. This is great, man. This is why the NFL is king. There's never a dull moment. I guess we're through the dull moment, which lasted less than a month, right? Like, you have the Super Bowl, you take a couple weeks, and here we are, free agency, the new league year, and chaos ensues everywhere. Josh Jacobs, the newest Packer. Let's celebrate. We're back with you tomorrow, right? We're doing a Tuesday special.
According to Jesse Nelson, we're doing a Tuesday special.
All right, we're back with you tomorrow, special Tuesday edition. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more Packers news to talk about tomorrow. So we'll get into that and a whole lot more tomorrow. Also want to dive in a little bit to some college hoops tomorrow. So we'll do that beginning at 12:30 Central on the ESPN Madison YouTube, Facebook, Twitter pages. For all of you watching on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube page, make sure you click subscribe there and hang along with us. Find Mr. Irrelevant wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand. We do it 3 times a week, typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But this is a special week, man. It's the end. It's the middle of March. We got conference tournaments. We got NFL free agency. We're going to do a billion shows this week. I'm just fired up to talk about this. Josh Jacobs. Whoa. Back with you tomorrow. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Stroh. Big thanks to Jason Wilde, Josh DiMaggio, Hunter Vaughn running the show for us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.
About him. I mean, I'm somebody that is a fan of his. I went to Wisconsin. I started liking him when he was there. But, like, you don't hear many positive stories like that about him. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I ponder about that, too. And you just have to be careful about